Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
He had a post-game interview Saturday on his Heat tenure, and he said, "We were all right. We didn't win nothing like we were supposed to, so I don't know. We made some cool runs. We had some fun. I think that's all we did." Trista, are you surprised by Jimmy's comments? And then how do you think he's feeling being on the Warriors, even though he's talked about it a couple of times? And then how did you view his tenure with the Heat?
Yeah, I mean, he hates that organization. That's very clear.
Point blank.
Point blank, he hates them. The way it went down caused him to have such a bitter taste in his mouth that 3 Eastern Conference finals and 2 finals appearances in 5 years is really just like, oh, we had some fun, we made some cool runs. But ultimately the space in between what he's saying, right? Like the unsaid part is like, they did not support me. They did not bring anybody of any caliber around me, even though I asked them to. Like the year they went to the finals in the bubble, they had like a broken down Goran Dragic, Bam Adebayo in his second year, and Tyler Hero in his rookie year. And it was like, okay, we can build on that. And they never did. The 2023 finals, they had the ghost of Victor Oladipo, I think on a veteran minimum contract. They had Gabe Vincent. They just get a bunch of these undrafted dudes and they build them up and they become serviceable players, but they're not stars. And Jimmy Butler did enough, I think, to warrant them making some big swings to get him a star. If the Lakers can go get Luka just with one phone call, you had years to do that. And it got so bitter at the end where they didn't want to pay him. Remember last offseason too, Pat Riley was like, oh yeah, I don't want to pay. First and foremost, he was like, if Jimmy Butler's not playing, because he was injured last playoffs, if he's not playing, he needs to shut the fuck up, basically. I don't know if he said the F-bomb, but like he told him he needs to sit down and be quiet. That was strike one. Then after the season, he goes on record as basically like, I'm not going to pay him. And also Tyler Hero's better than him. I like Tyler Hero because he's more available than Jimmy Butler. He only plays 50 games a year. But ultimately, the Heat have done nothing to support him. They've done nothing, period, since the Heatles era. And I don't know why you'd really want to play for them other than the fact that it's Miami and there's tons of baddies and the weather's amazing and there's no state tax. You had Shaquille O'Neal putting body oil, baby oil, all over his body so he could essentially skirt the body fat test because you have to be 4.5% body fat in order to play for this organization. They are insane. And I think he looks back at his time like, I probably should have never come here. And I probably should have gotten the hell out a lot earlier.
That was an amazing take. But I was thinking about before Jimmy Butler came to Miami Heat, wasn't he at Philadelphia? That wasn't a great time as well.
He's never had a good situation. That's why I think he's in love with the Warriors, is because it's the first functional franchise he's ever been with a true co-star. He was in Chicago, and Derrick Rose was sort of on his last leg. He had Joakim Noah and Tom Thibodeau running him into the ground. Then he goes to Minnesota with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, and those guys, they were pretty soft at that point in their career, and that's why he got out of there. Goes to Philly with Brett Brown, Joel Embiid. They choose Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris over him, the iconic line. And then Miami. So he's loving life right now to feel supported, to have an offense that functions. And I think he really dodged a bullet by not going to Phoenix and going to a situation where he's probably going to ride out into the sunset and maybe go further than he ever has before by the time he's all said and done.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Jimmy Butler, the reason why he's enjoying it because he's not the first option. Everywhere else that he's been almost the first option. That's why he was able to take the only play 50 games and things of that nature. But on a team like Golden State, they're requiring more of him, but it's also more from a second position, second option. You're not the first option. So that gives you a little bit of rest. All the weight, pause, is not on your shoulders because you're playing with the great Stephen Curry. And now, even if you're a slasher like Jimmy Butler, that's your dream, that when you're going to the basket, somebody cannot double team you because they can't afford for the ball to get swung out to Stephen Curry. That's a nightmare. So them two together is actually perfect. I think them two together is actually better than Klay Thompson and Steph, because now you got two people that can get a basket. Not that Klay couldn't, but Jimmy Butler is way more aggressive when it comes to attacking the rim.
That's low-key a hot take. Trista, I'm just curious on what you think. Do you think that Jimmy Butler is a better pairing than Klay Thompson? And then when you say that, are you talking about in the past year or years as a whole? You just got to be clear.
I'm talking about if I'm in a game and I got Klay Thompson and Steph, or I could have Jimmy Butler and Steph. Pause. I would go with Jimmy Butler and Steph because it give you more dynamics. With Klay and Steph, you just got shooters on the floor. When Jimmy Butler comes out there, he can get a basket. If the shot is not falling, he can go get a basket. And sometime whenever they lost, that was the reason. You needed somebody else that could get a basket, like a guaranteed bucket.
Okay. Trista, what do you think?
Yeah, I love that take. I mean, you talk about what Jimmy Butler is. He's a creator, right? He can get his own shot. And Klay really could not get his own shot, especially after the ACL tear. He just had such limited mobility. Even his defense started to go down. So you talk about what Jimmy Butler does well. Like you said, Mase, he's a slasher. He can go get you a bucket, and he ends up elevating to the moments that he plays in. The bigger the spotlight, the bigger his performances are. And then Steph and Klay didn't occupy the same space, but you could blitz Steph, and you didn't really know unless Klay was hot, especially after his peak level, right? After that injury, he kind of had these highs and lows in terms of his shooting. You're right. Like when they fell, it was because they couldn't get a bucket down the stretch because teams were double teaming Steph and they weren't getting the ball out to Klay. They were getting the ball out to somebody else.
Yeah, so you needed somebody that could say, you know what? For the next 15 points, it's going to be me.
Okay.
And you know, Klay would have that pump fake, step over and shoot, but he couldn't just get crazy and get to the basket, get whatever kind of basket he want. And that's where Jimmy Butler becomes a real problem, especially on this Golden State team, because you got shooters all around you. You even got Buddy Hield that'll come off the bench and probably hit 2 threes. And in the playoffs, that matters.
Yeah, it does. And to your point, Mace, really fast before we switch gears, I think that the analogy that you can make is like Jimmy Butler in Miami and everywhere else that he was an everyday car. Like when you have a car and you're using it for every stop, your day to day, and if that's the only car you have. Now Jimmy Butler's like the second or third car, and you're primarily driving the Steph Curry car. There's not nearly as much miles on it. Even though he's in the game, he's not required to do nearly as much. The mileage on his body, the hits to his body, not nearly as much either. It's a great fit for him. I'm super happy for him.
Yeah, it's actually like playing on an all-star team when them two are playing together. Because, you know, I could get a bucket. We know he can get a bucket. And you ever see how all-stars play together? It's like with a respect. But the game is that much easier because you're playing with that level of talent.
Okay. And then just last follow question. So you don't feel like right now Klay Thompson has that in him? Pause.
I think he has the ability, but I mean, it's just common sense that Jimmy Butler is a way more rugged player than his styles. That's a better style to have.
He was never that guy that had a tremendously deep bag. That's just not what Klay did. Right? Like he would drive straight line to the basket, dunk, lay, pause, But he was never like giving you, hezzy, cross, tween, behind the back like Jimmy can do. Jimmy is like the mid-range master. He can create space. He can get his own shot. He can, draw contact. He's going to the free throw line more than any Warrior has pretty much in the history of Steph's career. And that's what you need, is getting guys into foul trouble as well, which sort of changes the landscape of that game plan also. So no, Klay was never doing that. He was primarily like a great two-way 3-point, 3-and-D, the elite 3-and-D player.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of straight line drives to his game.
And for the history of the NBA, the people that had crazy mid-range games are the people who dominated, whether it was Jordan, whether it was Kobe, whether even when you got Ray Allen shooting from deep, he also had the mid-range. Everybody that had that mid-range game at the two were like a nightmare. D Wade, even if you talk about the three, Carmelo Anthony, anybody, Kevin Durant, anybody that mastered the mid-range game. For the kids that are watching, that's something to pay attention to. You're just shooting threes, that's cool. But if you got a mid-range game, you become extremely harder to stop.
Got it. Okay. Underrated NBA teams, who are they? We'll discuss after the break.
What you want, nigga? Everything, nigga, super size. Two Big Macs, like when they doing them 2 for $5.